And
All right, welcome everybody to Golf Manor's Executive Committee meeting. Today is September 13th, 2021. Let's go ahead and get started with roll call.
Ms. Cheney,
Here.
Mr. Pridnoff, Mr. Singh,
Here.
Ms. Snyder,
Here.
Mr. Wilkinson.
Here.
Mr. Pridnoff let me know that he would be running a little bit late. Do we need to still have a motion for him? May I have a motion to excuse Mr. Pridnoff? Maybe that's him.
Suspense is killing
I
me.
know.
It is.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Perfect.
We waited long enough.
We
Good
didn't even
timing.
have to make a motion.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Pridnoff is here.
All right, excellent. All right, has everyone had a chance to review the proposed agenda?
I would like to add to it.
Okay.
I'd like to add a discussion on the Recreation Commission 2009 ordinance, to do an update on it.
Okay. Anyone else? No?
Says there a
Was that a
second?
motion?
Oh,
I'll
sorry.
second.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Yeah, I guess I should have.
Aye.
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 All right, do we have a motion to accept the agenda as amended by Ms. Cheney?
I'll make a motion to accept the updated agenda.
A
I'll-
second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Now on to the minutes to be approved. We have two sets this evening. First is the August 16th meeting. A motion to accept those, or to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, and the minutes for August 25th.
Motion to approve.
I'll make a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got left out.
I am, jeez. Okay, now on to new business. First up is the admin building Little Library discussion. As most people know, we had a resident, Elaine Moskovitz, speak to council about adding a little library in front of the municipal building. Council referred it to our committee to discuss. Would anyone like to start off with that discussion?
Is it going to be donated?
That I don't know. I have unofficial word that the mayor would purchase it if it passes.
Okay.
And I haven't heard from Go Golf Manor how they were planning to get it to
Okay.
us otherwise if it was going to be a donation. Does anyone have any strong feelings either way on this?
Personally, I think that it's other than us, very rarely are there residents here at the building. And Ms. Moskovitz's suggestion was that the council people take turns maintaining it. So there's no plan to maintain it. I don't feel that there's a purpose really for it to be here. So personally, I feel that there are a fair amount of little libraries around the village. I think it's kind of just adding a layer of burden to the administration here that's not necessary.
Okay. Does anyone else agree with that? Disagree?
Does that have to be in front of the building, or could it be in a park where there's actual more residents going through and seeing it, or?
That is a good point. I know initially when we were first approving little libraries in the village, there was a discussion about having one at the park, and there was a bit of a worry about vandalism. I don't know if maybe Chief Campbell has an idea of how he thinks that would shake out, having a little library there. Certainly there are more people do go to the park than the municipal building, but
Yeah, if I could predict crime, I would be making double.
sure.
There's always that chance. It's a law of averages, you know, the more people that come by, that number increases if something's gonna happen. I don't think the location is the problem, other than exposure to more people where one of them might have not the best intentions. We've seen some vandalism over there of the bathroom building,
Right.
and lights, things like that. So there's potential there.
What about somebody on Weehee?
I think that's a good idea.
I know. I don't know if Chris would do it next door.
If I may,
Yeah,
the whole purpose, my understanding was, of the little library system was for us to go to the people, not to bring the people here. I think doing this at the administration is counter to that, and if council wants to make a different decision about that, that's fine. But the ordinance itself states that there is a specific number of little libraries to be installed. Once we hit that number, we are going to reevaluate whether or not we allow additional ones. And we also have some enforcement issues on the current libraries. And there are 2 that I know of that have not been decorated. That's a violation of the ordinance that needs to be enforced by the code official. I've not seen all of the libraries, but I think there needs to be evaluation of that system to make sure that it's working. My concern about having one here is I think you guys don't, I think people, not you guys, I think people in general think that there's all these people flocking to this building all the time to do things, and there's not. I think a little library somewhere else in the village, such as one of the parks, would be better than having something at this building. There's just not that kind of activity that goes on here. And particularly right now, the building is locked down, so we're doing business at the doors again. I'm not saying that this is something that we can't take a look at in the future, but I think that evaluation needs to be a part of when you evaluate the ordinance as a whole and determine if your point of view about what the little libraries are supposed to be doing is being met by adding something here. Frankly, the administration does not have the time or the capacity to maintain a little library. And I don't think that's something that should be expected of the staff here to do that. So there would need to be a plan, and I think if the decision, I would appreciate that if a decision is made to put one here, along with that is a specific plan in writing, who maintains it, who takes care of it, and who decorates it, who does whatever to it. My concern is, and something else that this committee needs to think about, we have a house on Elbrook that has a little library where the residents are moving. And we didn't plan for this in the ordinance. When those people move, are they taking the library with them? When the new people come into the house, are they going to be bound by the agreement for the little library? Or are they going to decide, hey, I'm not going to do anything with it and it's just going to deteriorate? We didn't ask those questions. I don't know that any of that's going to happen. But that, again, is one of those things that we've run across in the last several months that we need to make a decision about to make sure that we've got it covered if something does happen. So,
I do agree that
Ish.
a park, sorry, Mr. Van Horn.
Well, you could finish.
Oh, I was just going to say, I do agree that a park would be a better place. And just because more people frequent parks than they do the municipal building. So if we were to have one on public property, that would be my preference. Mr. Van Horn?
Since I spent extensive time studying these, it's usually recommended that you don't put them in parks
Okay,
because they do attract vandalism.
I'm sorry, Mr. Van Horn, I can't hear you.
It is recommended, it is usually not recommended that you put them in public parks because they do tend to attract vandalism. It is acceptable, recommended you put them in a police station or a community center. I would object to the fact that just because people aren't here means we shouldn't have one, because we should be doing things to bring people here. This is not a police station. This is a community center. I think the assumption, and I didn't hear the suggestion that the administration be responsible for maintaining it, whatever else. I think your last part was fair to say there is a group of people that are really rallying around these, and I think if you ask them to take responsibility for it, if that's part of what it takes to get one here, I think it's important. One of the biggest suggestions about having libraries around the village is they become a communication center and a connection for community. That's actually one of the number one things for the literacy network is not only teaching people to read, but to build community connections. And there's a movement, I'll tell you now, we're gonna start pushing to put another 10 libraries around the village. And the biggest reason is it becomes a station to put newsletters and communicate that way in the village. And of course, that was a suggestion in Ms. Moskowitz's speech to have newsletters be distributed out of the front, which is it's a cheap, easy, and when people get in the habit of saying, this is where I get my news. So I would think it's a really good idea, but if the objections are who's gonna maintain it, and I think it's solved, I would not be an advocate to put it in the park. I would be an advocate to put it here. And I would ask maybe to go off Manor or that community of people that's building it to maintain it, because we get books, we work with Literacy Network, those kinds of things. And give it a year, if it doesn't work or you don't like it, then you can pull it out. But this is a community center. We should be doing things to make it inviting, make people want to be here.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but under our certain circumstances, under the current circumstances that we're under, I think we also need to take into consideration what we've done to protect the building at this point. So I don't think we should be encouraging people to gather right now. So council's gonna make the decision. I'm just saying that we don't want to be put in a position where we have to maintain the little library.
Right.
And there has to be a specific plan that if it is not maintained, that we can go to someone and say, can you take care of this? Because I don't see it as the police department or the fire department or the administration's responsibility to monitor the little library. So.
I agree, and there needs to be a well thought out plan, and I also believe that this is something that should be decided by full council. If there's anyone who would like to make a motion to bring this to council, and then if council wants to move forward to task someone specifically on council with coming up with the plan to maintain the little library. Would anyone like to make that motion, or should we just table this discussion until?
Well, why don't we can bring it to full council, I think that's fine. Why don't we table it till COVID's over? You think?
If only we knew when that would be.
I think it's a
know.
little bit of
I
a
know.
misnomer to say people are gonna gather, because usually libraries are visited by one person or a small family. It's not like a gathering place of 20 people to see what's in it. I think that's a little bit presumptive. It's usually one person at a time. Matter of fact, I have a library and I almost never see them there, but my books keep disappearing and coming back. I see kids, a couple of kids I've seen them pick them up. The traffic that it develops is not something that's COVID dangerous, in my opinion, so.
I believe council has set a pathway for addressing the little libraries. I think you need to follow your ordinance. And as a part of the evaluation of that ordinance, there can be a discussion about whether or not putting one at the municipal building is a part of that.
And so do you think that's best for planning commission then?
I don't think planning commission would be charged with. Planning commission gave you the suggestion for the original ordinance. Council decided on the ordinance.
Okay,
I think that would be this committee that would evaluate how it's working.
okay.
And then you would make a decision to forward any suggestions onto the full council. We have how many now in the village?
I think 12, but there were 10 or 12, but I know there's a couple, one or two that went up that weren't through Go Off Manor, so they built it or did them themselves, so I don't.
I believe the ordinance says when 12 are installed in the village, then council will evaluate the program.
Was there a period of time after they hit 12 that they evaluate that, or just once
I
12
have to
was
read the
hit?
I
ordinance.
believe it said there will be a period no longer than 6 months.
6 months, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
Which,
after 12, I think it's, if we get to 12, see, I gotta read it too.
all right. Well, I think we need to find some clarity on what the ordinance exactly says, find out how many little libraries there actually
It's-
are.
The ordinance says a moratorium will be placed in will be in place once the 12th community free library is registered with the village administrator. Such moratorium shall continue for a period of no more than 180 days to enable the administration's report to city council.
How many days?
180 days
Yeah, but it said no more,
So 6
so you
months.
could technically do it at any
from when the
point.
12th one was approved.
So it says the administration is going to report.
Mhm.
Perhaps, Mr. Putoff then could run around.
Well, I think we need to evaluate, because I know there are a couple of them that are in compliance
Right.
with the ordinance, and that needs to get resolved. But I'll talk to Mr. Putoff about what he's done with that at this point.
Does it sound all right with everyone to leave it at that until we hear back from Mr. Putoff? All right, thank you.
I will say, just a side, there's not, unless I missed it, there's not a part of the ordinance that says they have to be decorated.
I
So
think
maybe-
they just need to be like
They have to be
paint.
finished.
So it says it should be constructed of treated or finished wood. So what does that mean?
A paint or stain line. I mean, that's what my assumption, right, finished would be,
Yeah,
not necessarily decorated.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what that means in terms of,
Throw some stickers on it.
right?
All right, moving on to the Bremont and Stover sewer district repairs.
So, sorry here.
Okay.
Bear with me. Where's my cursor go again? Oh, okay. Just wanted to make you aware, if you came down Bremont at Stover, which I did last Tuesday, coming to work, there's a big hole right in the middle there. And I went, what are you doing? And in fact, there is a sewer collapse that has, apparently Bremont's got some issues with sewers. There's one that collapsed there. Fortunately, it doesn't involve the road. In fact, I noticed today there's a new sidewalk that's been poured there, but that will be finished and everything will look fine. The homeowner got a new sidewalk out of it courtesy of MSD. You may recall last summer that we repaired a section of road on Bremont up towards Lasanaville, where there was a sewer collapse. Well, the other end of that same section collapsed, and they're going to be doing construction from that new contract the new concrete all the way up to Lasanaville. So just to make you aware of that, you'll see construction taking place there.
How long is it?
I'm sorry.
How long is that area?
It's probably 2 sections of concrete.
Oh, okay.
So the one thing that MSD is doing very, very well with us is they're following our road replacement requirements to the letter. So they will complete an entire lane of pavement when they have to dig into the concrete. It's just not the patching that they used to do.
Great.
Which we used to have as a problem previously. So that ordinance is helping us maintain the integrity of our new streets. So just to make you aware that that's happening.
Any questions? A follow-up on Stover 2020 project and speed humps project.
Yeah, so we're into our warranty period with both of those projects. So the road engineer will be out here within the next month to take a look at the right-of-way and the sidewalks and the curbs and the streets themselves to make sure that there's no cracking. We know a couple of areas along Stover where the new dirt that was poured in has settled. That'll all get replaced and filled back in, and they'll plant new grass seed. For the speed humps themselves, we had some cracking on one of them on St. Albans, so those will all be repaired, but they'll be inspecting all of this, so you'll be seeing road folks in the village within the next month to take a work from that, to deal with that.
And Public Works update.
Yeah, so there's several things going on. One, if you're traveling on Lasanaville going up to the Ridgewood neighborhood, around the corner there's a sinkhole. The storm box has collapsed over there. And fortunately, we have Alita in the village doing the Bureau project. They've agreed to address that and just tie it into the Bureau Road project. So good news there. Timing on that, I had hoped that it would have been done already, but we're kind of at when Alita has the materials, the employees, and the equipment on site in the village to complete that project. So hopefully I'll advise at the next council meeting that's finished. Playground equipment, as you can tell, as you all are aware, I'm sure, we have the playground taped off. The audit came back and said they need to be closed off from the general public. It's unsafe. So we followed through and taped it off, fenced it off, and we're strictly enforcing no playing on the play set until a solution's identified. Stage, if you're unaware, work has been ongoing on the stage in there. The service department, with help of Mr. Putoff, done an outstanding job on getting that up to snuff. It's been framed out, drywalled, the front has been painted. There's been some additional work going on there, but hopefully it'll be done shortly. I believe that carpet is going to be installed next week.
Tomorrow,
The
the 14th.
Nice.
So, once that's done, once the carpet's completed and any little ancillary activities are finished, then the service team and Mr. Putoff will finish the back of the structure, finish the drywall, paint, and we'll be ready to go.
And it's interesting to note that a lot of the finished materials were donated by our local Home Depot store.
Yes.
Down the
So,
ridge.
yeah, I want to thank Officer Reed for working that channel for us.
That's great.
Make the project affordable to the village of Gulf Manor, so thank you. And the last thing is we are going to move forward with replacing the storm catch basin in front of the firehouse. So if you're in front of the firehouse, you'll notice that there's a nice sized drain, I believe it's a 4x4 drain in front of the fire where on the driveway there. That box has collapsed. We assume it's from the weight of all the ambulances and the vehicles there. And over time, it's just compromised integrity of the box. We've received a quote from Matt Scott, and we will hopefully do a reappropriation this evening or next week or next council meeting to get that project underway. So that's the end of what I have to report.
Great. Does anyone have any questions on his report? No? Okay, moving on then to the Rumpke contract. I believe Mr. Griffin has a PowerPoint presentation for us.
So, just to make you aware, and I think most of you were part of this process or had seen the RFP itself, what we wanted to do was to renew our contract with Rumpke. We did put it out as an RFP to see if there are any other vendors who would make a bid, and Rumpke was the only one who did. Our initial goal was to have a contract for a period of 5 years to improve and simplify and ensure accuracy of our residents' interactions with Rumpke, to stabilize the cost of waste management services for us all, to identify a clear pricing structure that can be communicated to residents during this period. And one of the things that we've seen a huge uptick in, and I think part of that might be the way we buy things today through Amazon and other shopping services. A lot of people are recycling a lot more stuff than we were 8 years ago when the previous contract was actually drawn up. And it's important to note at this point that the last contract that is ending at the end of this month, we had that for 8 years. We had a 5-year contract with the ability to extend for 3 more years. And at the time we did the extension, Rumpke did a quick look at our current contract then, and we probably would have seen about a 20% increase in waste management costs. So we went ahead and just renewed the previous contract. In addition, we wanted to provide any enhanced pricing to those who emphasized use of recycling. We wanted to evaluate any opportunities to provide enhanced pricing to those who were 65 plus in age. evaluate solutions to issues with overflowing bins at multifamily properties. We wanted to evaluate the ability to convert yard waste disposal, including spring brush pickup and fall leaf collection. One of the issues we have with that is it not only labor intensive and we spend a lot of money on equipment and disposal of that refuse, but it's also not an environmentally friendly situation to encourage people to put stuff in our streets, which eventually ends up in the drains. We spend a lot of time cleaning out our drains because leaves and things are falling into them constantly, especially during the winter or during the fall. We wanted to evaluate receptacle set out and setback service for those who are in need of such services, and retain operational services that work well and enhance those where there's an opportunity to do so. Finally, we wanted to maintain our service department dumpster and roll-off container that's located at the service garage. We wanted to provide regular and recycling receptacles for use here at the municipal building, provision of temporary roll-off containers for various village events, and then to continue our relationship with the Cincinnati Water Works with resident billing, which has worked very, very well. And I think, I couldn't recall, Ms. Cheney, was that started in 2013 or was that prior to that? Because what had happened,
The billing, right?
billing with Greater Cincinnati Water
Waterworks.
Works.
It was about that time, I think.
So the reason we do that is initially when the
7
village made the decision to no longer operate our own trash collection service, residents were given the option of themselves contracting with one of two companies to do that. There was a backlash where residents decided not to purchase garbage services, which turned into a big problem for the village in terms of garbage everywhere and people dumping garbage various places. So the decision was made at some point prior to 2013 to go to this model where you pay your garbage services through your water bill. So what I'm going to show you here, down the left side, this is billed out by single family, 2 family, and 3 to 4 family buildings. And then you'll see seasonal yard waste at the bottom. Currently through September 30th, a single family is paying $14.28 a month, 2 family is $21.41, 3 to 4 family is $28.55.
It's a month.
What Rumpke has proposed to us is a change in some of the services. Now, before we talk about that, the continued services that we would get would be trash is to be collected in the approved carts, plus 1 large or bulky item per week. In the previous contract, there was a very strict adherence that Rumpke would not pick up anything that was outside the container. When I became administrator, I asked them if it wasn't a problem where a lot of stuff was out there and somebody just had one initial bag flow over or something, could they pick that up? They're going to continue to do that, and that will be a part of our contract this time. But if people have garbage that does not fit in their bins, they'll have to call Rumpke and make arrangements to have that picked up on their own, and that will be at their cost. Single family and 2 family units are allotted up to 2 95-gallon trash carts and 2 65-gallon recycling carts at no additional charge. 4 family units get up to 4 95-gallon trash carts and 4 65-gallon recycling carts at no additional charge. Additional trash carts are available at $3.50 per rental unit, which would be billed directly to the property owner. That is no change from our current policy on trash carts. One of the things that we had some discussion about was, particularly with senior citizens, We've had some requests on carryout services to handicapped or elderly residents. It is offered. It's not something that has been advertised. It was something that was done specifically with Rumpke. We're including this year to make sure that people understand that that service is available to them, but it would cost them an additional $42 per month. That would be a firm rate for 5 years of being into this contract, and that again would be billed directly to the resident. That does not come into the village. Village facility services will continue at no additional charge, along with approximately 30 public street cans will continue to be serviced at no additional charge. Rumpke will provide up to 4 30-yard roll-off containers per year at no additional charge. Those would be for special events like our cleanup week. We used one just recently to do the street sweeping. Temporary cardboard trash containers and portable toilets, which we might need during special events, those are available to us upon request at a discounted cost. Finally, new features for this year. We're recommending that we start doing yard waste recycling. It would start at the beginning of the new contract. New receptacles would not, I'm reading ahead here. Recycling weekly starts beginning of the new contract. So where you set your green cans out every other week, you set them out weekly. New receptacles would not be needed at this time because we believe Recycling Weekly will take care of the additional recycling that's becoming a problem for people at their homes. We're also going to recommend separated seasonal yard trimmings be collected weekly, starting for 4 weeks in the spring and 8 weeks in the fall. The reason for that is to give some relief to the maintenance department, particularly during leafing season. If people wish to have their leaves specifically recycled, they can collect them in paper bags and set them out for Rumpke separately, and they'll be picked up not by the waste hauler, but by a recycling hauler. That hauling also will go towards our conversion rate of changing solid waste to recycled waste. The service for the recycling for the 3 months will be billed only for those months in that year per housing unit. So that extra charge or that additional charge would go to the homes during the period that we would delineate as the time when the 4 weeks in the spring and the 8 weeks in the fall would take place. So going back to the chart here, what we're seeing in the new contract is about a 10% increase across the board for everybody on average. What we're showing here is where you see 1428 with the asterisk. That includes the 5% Greater Cincinnati Waterworks billing surcharge. So GCWW does charge us 5% to collect the money and send that back to us. So for a single family home, from October 1st through September 30th, the Rumpke price is $14.90. What the homeowner would be billed on their water bill would be $15.65. That's inclusive of the 5% billing surcharge for Greater Cincinnati Water Works to handle the money. 2 family, the resident cost is $27.14. 3 to 4 family is $36.17. And then the seasonal yard waste recycling per property would be $3.15 for the 3 months that we're actually doing the collection. And that what you see here is the progressive increase year by year through the end of the contract would be on September 30th of 2026.
So all yard waste would have to be put into specific bags. It wouldn't be allowed, residents would not be able to bring it to the street like we currently do?
So we're not making a change in that program this year.
Okay.
We're adding this as a supplement.
This is a supplement, that's what you're saying.
And then
it makes it easier.
What I would envision is we need to find a more environmentally friendly way to do our leaf collection.
Mhm.
I think this will be an education process for our residents. So for this year's leafing season, I would make no changes at all. I think we want to prepare to start educating people for brush pickup in the spring. And I think where this will help is right now, particularly with brush, we're only picking up on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month. When I came in here today, I saw a number of residences where they had done cleanup in their yards over the weekend and stuff sitting at the curb.
For days.
Our guys aren't going to get that
Right.
for 2 more weeks.
Right.
Rumpke would pick that up on trash day during the season.
Awesome.
So I think that'll be a huge help for people to help keep the village cleaner. Plus, I think it will allow the maintenance guys not to be behind the gun so much when leaf season comes.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd.
Any questions?
I have a question. When we met with the Rumpke representative to go over the RFP, he had mentioned that we could take the seasonal yard waste recycling cost and, just bill, a quarter or whatever it ends up being through the whole year. That way, the price is consistent for residents throughout the year, as opposed to people all of a sudden saying like, why is there an increase? It went down again. I feel like you'll get less calls that way.
That can be done. The reason I laid this out like this for you today, so you can see what the actual cost is. So what we need to do beyond this on next steps, when this contract was done back in 2013, for some reason, the contract itself was written into Chapter 935 of the village ordinances regarding waste pickup, which means if for some reason we change a facet of the pricing, it's against the law. It's against our ordinance. So with as quickly as recycling things are changing, because there's a couple of things that we're working on. We're talking to Zero.
Go zero.
Go Zero, thank you, regarding doing recycling here in the village. Taking that out of the ordinance allows us to be able to renegotiate the contract if we need to at some point in time, or to make enhancements to it. What we need to do is to pass a new Chapter 935 by September 30th, and then to authorize a new contract by September 30th, which would be our next council meeting. So what we would like to get from this committee this evening is a recommendation to the full council to proceed with pursuing this approach. Mr. Donald will need to write the legislation. We'll get that to you when it's written so you can review it. But the things that were in our proposal two come to mind specifically at the top: evaluating any opportunities to provide any enhanced pricing to those users who emphasize use of recycling. We talked to Rumpke about that, and their position was that it's the same cost to haul away waste versus whether it's recycling or regular trash. I believe, and I did not get a call back from Mr. Ferrier today about a question, but I believe that there are families who are recycling more in their green bins than they are in their brown bins. I would like to see them be able to have a mixture of 2 green bins and 1 brown bin, rather than having 2 brown and 1 green. I think that would be a nice plus to this program. Same thing holds true for enhanced pricing to those 65 plus in age. Again, the cost to provide trash service is the same, regardless of whether or not we give a discount to people who are 65 plus. If we do that, we're all paying that additional cost. And I believe, Ms. Cheney, you had mentioned that when Mr. Ferrier had talked about the specific cost savings on doing that, it was less than,
It was $1.
it was $1.
One worth it.
And then it also becomes an enforcement issue for us, because we would have to go and check people's age if they're trying to get the cheaper service because they're saying they're 65. There would be no easy way of evaluating that.
Would someone like to make a motion to recommend the council to proceed with this?
I have a question. Is there?
We are running short on time and we have a lot left,
So moved.
so apologies.
I like your idea of even billing across, definitely, so nobody will call you and say, how come I?
I believe that if you guys are okay with this concept, then I'll talk to Mr. Ferrier about doing specifically that. I just wanted to make sure for the purposes of this meeting, you knew specifically what the additional cost
Right,
was.
I like that idea.
And I guess I'm curious what Mr. Van Harn's question was, and we can
Sure.
be quick.
Just, is there a way to get, the water company to put a reminder in the month before if the bill does go up? I know you just talked about maybe a reminder that that's the month they can do the recycling thing. that they're-
I'm sure for an additional cost, they'd be glad to put something extra on the bill.
We could incorporate that into Rumpke's mail out, because Rumpke's gonna mail a mailer to every resident.
Yeah, that's a good point that I did not mention. They do send out the yearly schedule for waste pickup. At the beginning of this new contract, they're also gonna send out a piece at their cost of what the changes are. So that
People get
can
the
be
bill
included
the
in
month that it's happening, it's too late. They need to get something beforehand and start educating them to change the behavior, to know that those months are coming up.
It's in 15
Well,
days.
it will be a moot point if they do switch it to Ms. Snyder's suggestion where it's divided out across the whole year.
But I still
Right.
think they need to be reminded that's the month.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely
Oh,
have to
gotcha.
communicate
I
that
understand.
somehow.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's gonna be up to us. We're gonna need to figure out how to communicate to people that we now have a recycling service for yard waste. And that's gonna be different for people.
Is there a motion?
Any other
Would
questions?
anyone like to make that?
Yeah, I made that motion.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now on to the playground equipment replacement slash COVID grant. I believe everyone has seen the lovely mock-ups behind us of what Game Time has put together. Mr. Hurst, would you like to pull up? Do you have the specific?
Yeah. To make it work. It didn't work.
Okay, so there is a complete replacement structure and then an additional piece of equipment right there called the merry-go-all, which is an inclusive structure for people of all abilities. Those two slideshow. Those two drums that you see underneath there, those are also an accessible piece of equipment. Today, was it? What?
That was the fence hearing.
Oh. I'm afraid of what's gonna pop up next.
I am too.
So we received an itemized quote from Game Time that also included, Andy, what was that surface called? The motorized cord surface,
Yeah,
something like that. That was a considerable amount of money, I believe about $68,000. So that's something we will have to just decide if we can afford as a village.
didn't they say, and I could be wrong, but didn't he say that the equipment can be installed prior to that?
Yes.
So is it possible to phase in this project? So phase one is the installation of equipment, and the second phase would be the installation of a rubberized surface, and until such time we use mulch.
I think that's smart. Yeah, he did say
So
that
I
that
think
could
the
be
other way
done.
around, they have to do the cord surface first and then install the equipment in it.
I thought that was for the turf.
I thought that would be said poured surface, I think, so we should probably verify that, but I think it's the other way around.
Well, all in with that surface and the new bench with a shade sail that you can see behind you. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah, that is nice,
Beautiful.
huh?
So keep them.
It's about $150,000. So, and that's with us getting the game time grant through them, so that basically just amounts to a discount. And we would be footing all but the 50,000 that we're getting from our COVID grant. So,
I think that there might be opportunities for additional funding.
okay.
Now, I don't think that that would be the rationale to delay this project, because obviously we don't want to lose the $50,000.
Right.
But in speaking with other communities who've installed parks, they have received state funding for the installation of parks.
Okay.
And through the capital fund, the Ohio Capital Fund budget,
Alright.
I believe that the next round of Ohio Capital Fund budgeting is in the spring. Ohio is in the spring. It's a political process, but there is money available. It's good to have a plan.
Right.
That's why I was mentioning the possibility of phases.
Okay. I think we do need to find out if that surface is available after the fact, because that would cut out a lot.
So here's what I would do with this. We have a $146,000 quote. We know that we have to do something to protect that $50,000 COVID grant. I think what we need council to do is to take a look at the layout, which is that center picture on the board. If council agrees that that layout is good, that you're okay with the pieces, I think we need to know what the colors are going to be. I think the large structure is the number one priority. The number two priority would be the merry-go-round. The number three priority would be the covered seated bench.
Right.
Those are the three additions. Beyond that, what we would want to do is to get a final plan from Game Time. We want them to go ahead and invoice us for the design work, and then that needs to be submitted to the county as soon as we can get that together. My understanding is that then that opens the project file, then we need to talk with them about certification of the vendor and all those kinds of things. Beyond that, we need to figure out what pieces of this we're going to move forward with now. It looks like we're not doing the surface, and I think we need to verify whether or not that surface can be poured prior to or after the structure is built. Because I think it was the AstroTurf that they were talking about had to be done ahead of time, which is not what we're doing. The remainder, the things that concern me are the installation. I don't see demolition on this unless I'm missing it. Does anybody see that? We had asked them to give us a quote on demo.
I know that separately, it was $6,000,
Okay.
but I'm not sure if it's on that final.
So basically, we're looking at roughly $30,000 for demo and installation. So we need to figure out if we wish to to use some of the CARES Act money. CARES Act money can be used for the benefit and welfare of public health and recreation and wellness. Council's going to need to make a decision about that. I would recommend we probably have a discussion with the finance committee at the next council meeting about that. What kinds of ideas, how we want to spend that first allotment of money for this year.
What was that dollar amount?
187,000.
So regardless of what pieces we pick, we do need a color scheme because we cannot order anything from the company until we have that. Everyone was sent a link to our options. Did anyone have a favorite or two favorites that they would like to suggest? The administrator prefers us not to choose anything that has a white component for maintenance reasons, cleaning reasons.
Is that the wisteria?
He did not
Show.
tell us
I
which one
think,
that was.
I'm fairly confident that that's what it is.
Yeah, I think what they've used for their mock-up is the wisteria.
I like wisteria,
That or shine. Those are my two.
shine.
Those are my two favorites.
So, one vote for wisteria,
You can put me down for wisteria.
shine.
Looks different, big.
Okay, so. Would anyone else like to propose a color scheme?
Yeah, jovial.
Is that one of the ones with purple?
No, it's
Oh, that one.
it's
Okay, I
that.
like that one too.
And then the other one I would propose is the, where did it go here? Rainforest.
Interesting.
Okay, so we have.
So who doesn't
I like shine,
oranges?
yeah.
I like shine as well.
Yeah, I do
I
like
thought
this
papaya
one.
is really cool, but
Papaya is also
I liked
cool.
that one too.
if I had to choose, though, I would probably go with the wisteria, but it's the cool colors.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pridnoff, which one did you say?
Wisteria.
That's that one, right?
If that's the same as the mock-up, then I like that one.
I agree.
Of course.
It's
Mr.
on-
Semley,
this-
which one did you say?
It's way up at the top.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to buy you
That's
that.
what it is.
Wait,
There's wisteria
buy in
again.
that rainforest?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Still not even
I can't tell you how
remembering
much
this.
time I spent looking at this.
So, okay, Mr. Wilkerson?
Oops.
I like whimsy, but second would be jovial.
Jovial?
Oh, whimsy.
This is cute.
And then there's wisteria right below it.
But if they recommend not having any white. then
Oh, does jovial, or which one?
Whimsy.
Whimsy, yeah.
One above or below the name?
Below.
It's one below.
So that's wisteria.
Okay.
Sounds like a disease.
All
It's the only thing I
right.
like about that color.
I went right past rainforest.
That's right, I changed my mind.
Okay, yeah, you really meant Bayou.
I meant by it.
Okay. But you voted for jovial, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then I have 2 votes for wisteria for those
Can you
final.
put jovial up?
I find that.
Final,
I'm
okay.
Do you remember which way it was?
No.
The champagne, the
There's-
champagne's
there's-
color scheme is like gray. Gray is not a problem as far as you know.
Yeah, gray shouldn't be a problem because it says it's, the color is called metal.
Oh, okay.
So I like that,
I think
our swing set is currently yellow, right? The bars,
it's like yellow and red.
Yeah.
It's red.
oh, it's red? What do I
I
know?
think it's both. I think it's still-
I think the gates are yellow.
Right.
Okay. I was just gonna say the yellow of that metal ties in with the swings, but it might not. Who knows?
Oh.
Matt, or sorry, Mr. Betcher, were you changing your,
I'm so
Nope,
sorry.
stands.
okay, staying with wisteria?
Yeah.
All right. Ms. Cheney, between wisteria, shine, jovial, and bayou,
I like shine.
shine.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm sorry, did you tell me what your vote was for?
Jovial.
So we have 2 for jovial, 2 for wisteria, none for bayou, 1 for shine. Okay, I haven't voted. Or you know what we could do? Maybe we could let council decide
Yeah.
between wisteria and jovial. How's that sound? Okay, sounds good.
I don't think you can go wrong with any of the ones.
No.
I know, I think they're all.
I agree. We all have very good taste.
Well, I think you want to narrow it down.
We did to 2.
So someone should make a motion to suggest to council, whatever.
Wisteria and jovial.
I make a motion that you recommend to council that we go with either wisteria or jovial.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Here we go. And then do we have a motion to recommend the council proceed with how do we want to with this? The plan.
That doesn't take out the swing set, correct?
Correct.
No.
Correct.
So
I make
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, great. Is there a discussion for fire services? I know we're down to the last 4 minutes.
No, it's just on here because it is a continuing thing that we continue to deal with. Just as a reminder out there.
Okay.
On the vacant building ordinance enforcement, all I wanted to tell you on that is I've given Mr. Putoff all of the materials to start enforcing, to go back and reinforce the vacant building orders that we sent out in, 2019. There are a couple of blighted business district buildings that we're particularly going to be emphasizing in this process. And we'll have more on that probably for you the next time. It's gonna be a process, but we're in a position now that we can start working on this.
And then last but not least, Ms. Cheney made a motion earlier.
Yeah, the Recreation Commission, I did talk to Stefan about this today too. I think we need to update it, the 2009 one, and Stefan suggested that we also go way back to the first one too. And, which I have no problem if we look at all 3 ordinances. I was gonna make a recommendation that, we review it and come up with, some updates to it in order for us to move ahead and even think about getting a Recreation Commission, because it's not gonna work the way the ordinance is written now. Haven't been on the committee. I was gonna suggest that Steve and I sit down and do the updates to save everybody the trouble. And then, since we were commissioners, and that we bring it back maybe to the next meeting and let you guys update it or whatever. I don't know. I didn't say anything to Steve about it yet. but- Unless all of you want to work on
All
it.
right.
I don't think you really would. But
Any discussion on this, or Ms. Cheney, would you like to go ahead and make a motion?
I'll make a motion that Mr. Simile and I review the Recreation Commission ordinances, there's 3 of them, and bring it back to council. You think the next meeting, executive, the next meeting with some changes on it and recommendations.
And I'll work with Mr. Donovan to support you on that.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, great. And I believe we don't need to even touch the pending business at this time.
No, but there was one thing Ms. Cheney wanted to talk just real briefly about enforcement of parking on Vera. Did you want to do that in the main council meeting?
Oh, I
With
can
the
do it in
chief?
the main, I can do it in the main.
Okay.
Or I can just briefly here just say that I have to give kudos to Atleta because they are working really hard and they're very nice people. They're working around people that are leaving their cars parked on the street. I've seen the forklift have to back down the street and then pull over in order for him to turn around and go forward to get the metal plates that go over. And I have talked to them about these cars that continue to park there where there's no parking signs. And they're very good about taking those signs and moving them too.
Nice.
They're excellent at doing that. And I have talked to them about how many times they've called the police department and they said they've only had 1 car towed. And I told them, I said, everybody on this street knows that they can't park. So if you want to tow them, go ahead and tow them because they're in your way. And
Right.
it's only a matter of time before somebody gets hit.
Chief, I think
And they are slowing down the process.
you had told me that you've been in contact with Atleta.
Yeah, they're aware that, because, we asked them early on some prior projects, do you want us to come out first thing in the morning and start hooking cars away? They said no, because they don't want to have a resident towed where they might not work in that particular area. They've always advised that we'll call you when we need a vehicle moved. And so, we stay in communication with them when it's time to take that step.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The only announcement is that we meet next Monday, October 11th at 6 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Mr. Vice Mayor, may I?
And we are clear.